Morning, and I want to thank everybody for being here. I'm Steve Bradford, Senator for the 35th Senate District, and as many know, over the last 2 years, I was part of the California Reparations Task Force and spent a great deal of our time developing this 1,100-page document right here that had over 115 recommendations of what reparations should be. And due to the fact that this is my last year in the legislature, I was introducing a series of bills that I'm very passionate about. I want to be part of this work to turn recommendations of the task force into reality. I'm committed to elevating these policies. For me, this is a defining moment, not only in California history, but in American history as well. I will do my best to fulfill the vision of our Secretary of State, Dr. Shirley Weber, who was the author of AB 3121. That legislation created the task force and brings us to where we are today. That is what I believe my bills are about, and I'm introducing this year. 7 months ago, I began the work of developing this package. These policies have an impact that's needed right now to start the repair of some of the harms that were defined in this report. First off, as many know, last August I introduced SB 490, and that's just a framework to stand up the governmental entity that will help implement reparations. This bill will lay the foundation for what is to come by creating the California American Freedmen's Affairs Agency. This new state agency would be tasked with overseeing the implementation of any reparations policies passed by the legislature and approved by the governor, including determination of eligibility. One of the issues also deals with home ownership. I will introduce legislation to increase home ownership for the descendants of slavery. As we know, it's many individuals who have lived in the state, in this country, for over 150 years and have never owned property. This would involve down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. A mortgage assistance for existing homeowners, and possibly include homeowners insurance assistance as well. It's another bill that will deal with property tax relief for current homeowners living in historically redlined communities. These poor and largely minority areas where there was systemic denial of mortgages, insurance, and other financial services based largely on the race and their ethnicity. Also, racial motivated takings. During my 2 years serving on the Reparations Task Force, we documented the racially motivated takings of property across California, just like the historic legislation that provided restitution for the unjust taking of Bruce Beach and Manhattan Beach. My legislation will provide a broad pathway to justice for other harms by racist policies and practices of distant and recent past. Many Californians were denied the opportunity to prosper and build generational wealth as a result of racial bias. We must remove the stain and make it right. In California, the government officials abused the power of eminent domain by using it to destroy homes and move people off their land. This was often racially motivated. It occurred in San Francisco, Oakland, Los Angeles, San Diego, and we're even dealing with an issue in Palm Springs right now with Section 14. Just naming a few locations in California. One example again was the construction of the Century Freeway in Los Angeles in 1968, where 3,500 families and 117 businesses, mostly African American, in the communities of Watts and Willowbrook neighborhoods were displaced. The people that suffered these harms deserve to be compensated for this. All of the reparations proposals will require investments. That is why I will be advocating for the state of California to set aside a portion of investments in the state budget to address these policies now and into the future. Now it's time for action. I'm committed to advancing these proposals, and I look forward to the support of my colleagues and all of Californians. I'm happy to answer any questions from anyone on Zoom or in the room today as it relates to policies that I've introduced. So thank you. Yes.
Senator, you mentioned it's time for action, and you want to see results after years of studying this issue, and now you want to create a state agency. Are you concerned, though, that with the budget deficit that we have, that may hinder things or affect the results that you'd like to see?
Oh, without a doubt, the budget will impact what we do, but we've often said in California, the budget is a reflection of our priorities and a reflection of our values. If we say we value reparations and wanting to heal the harms of slavery in this country and in this state, we have to make this a priority. We have reserves that we can clearly designate a portion of those reserves. We can delay or defray the disbursement of those funds, but I think if it doesn't exist in the budget, it doesn't exist at all. So we have to have at least a placeholder in the budget for reparations.
Has the governor made any commitments to you that he'll do that?
He hasn't made any commitments to me, but he's made a clear commitment to the Legislative Black Caucus that he's going to work with us as we move forward on our policy package.
Thank you.
Senator Bradford, there's a situation going on in Santa Monica that we're just finding out, and I think you alluded to that. The Belmar District, if that's the name of it, someone did testify during the task force meeting, I think Dr. Jefferson. There was an issue where there were some African Americans living close to downtown, and I think there was a removal. Maybe it was some of those people were burned out of their homes and stuff. And Kayvon Ward, she's on another mission to get some of that property back. Would any of your piece of legislation, specifically the taking, would address that issue in seeing that those people in that section were no longer there, because this happened over 60 years ago, I think 1959 to 1960. Would they be able to be compensated?
It doesn't speak specifically to that, but I'm very much aware of that property in Santa Monica, which is now a parking lot, which was black homes and black businesses. Yes, we had individuals who testified, but as we stated, we're going to be looking at various areas where property was taken, and if it's still available to return, we will be working to assist individuals in trying to move forward in that direction, the same as we did in Manhattan Beach for the Bruce family.
And on the other side, I do want to mention that the fact that the California Legislative Black Caucus did meet with some members of the black media outlet yesterday morning before they released their package. You were not in attendance. Could you explain why that did not happen? And I'm not saying there's a separate thing going on here, but there are some people concerned that you were not on that call when we were addressing, well, at least asking questions about the 14 pieces of legislation that they had available for their package.
I was probably in another meeting yesterday at the time, so probably wasn't available to be there. It's a lot of times that we have precedents that all members are not available due to our schedule conflicts.
And do you know that there are certain organizations, California, the California for a Just and Equitable California, Coalition of CJAC, and NAASDLA, they have some concerns about direct payments for reparation that was not mentioned too. I just want to get your thoughts on that, because the 14 legislation that the CLBC rolled out yesterday, and I haven't read through yours. I'm not going to make a comment on that, but some people are concerned about the direct payment as well.
I mean, we're early in this. I mean, we would all love to see cash payments, but we got to be realistic about it. And I've tried to level set since I've been on the task force. Reparations was never about cash payments, it was about land. And that's what we're trying to assist, and that's what I'm trying to make possible for people to own land. That's how generational wealth has been passed on in this country, through land. Now, if there's an opportunity to provide individuals with cash payments, we would love to see that. That's why we had leading economists who worked with the task force and testified over the 2 years and stated clearly that the wealth gap between white families and African Americans is $370,000. So that would be the floor that I would start at. If we were to issue payments, I would say it would start at that number, but we're far from it. Again, it's 115 recommendations in this book, and like I said, we're just at the beginning. This will not happen overnight. So,
And my last question, if you don't mind me asking, it seemed like, between what was released yesterday with the 14 piece of legislation, it seems like what, you have 5 here?
Well, one of my 5 was part of the 14.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Will there be any other legislation rolled out, as time rolls on, or these are just the ones that you're going to stick with?
These are mine. Now, I'm pretty sure my colleagues will introduce other pieces of legislation as well. Again, we introduce dozens of bills every year, and not everything makes that priority list, but it doesn't mean it's not important. It doesn't mean it won't have the support and the votes as it moves forward.
Mr. Senator? Someone else?
I'm sorry, I was just gonna ask if you have a dollar figure in mind, or what does it take to do what you're proposing today?
We don't have a dollar figure in mind, but we would like to see a percentage, or I would like to see a percentage of the reserves set aside. They say that California African Americans represent about 12% of the state's population, so I would love to see, 12% of the reserves set aside. It doesn't have to be, like I say, paid today, tomorrow, but to stand up, we're gonna need some kind of governmental funding to implement whatever reparations is and to roll out these programs. So again, it's not in the budget, it doesn't exist. So hopefully, if it's not this year's budget, in the coming budgets, that we have to do an earmark for reparations.
And just to clarify, reserves would usually be capital, so to keep it going, to actually keep the whole process, would you look for money somewhere else, or do you think that would cover?
I can hear you.
Sorry, do you think that percentage from the reserve would cover the entirety of what you need to get the reparations done, or would that be like the startup cost that you would need in operational?
Just start up. I think it's going to be ongoing. I mean, this didn't happen overnight, and this is, 160 years in the making. So it won't happen in one budget cycle. And in order to start addressing the harms, it's going to be years, if not decades. I see reparations kind of also as modeling our GI Bill, where we have wraparound services, where we have, ongoing educational support, like I say, first-time home buyers assistance, ongoing medical support, those services that our GIs get. I would like to see reparations encompass all of that. So that would be ongoing funding for programs such as that.
Mr. Senator, and for the average Californian of descendant, I should say, the average descendant here in California, who might not pay close attention to what the legislature is offering, I saw 14 bills, right, it's a total of 14 bills. What is your main message to them about just the goal that you hope that this does for their life?
That first, they're aware of this report and all the harms and the impacts that it still has on African Americans in this state and in this nation today, the harms of slavery, and that they're aware of the progress that we're trying to make to start addressing those harms. And to be educated, that's what we want, not only this legislative body to be educated of, all the harms that were made, but also how we still have a debt. This is not charity, this is not a handout, this is what was promised, this was old, and it's 160 years overdue. So I want them to be aware that we're working to try to address that.
Also, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Senator, right now, just with the budget projections, it looks like the state might be running deficits for the next 5 years, which might make tapping into reserves a little tricky, because that might be the plan to help deal with the state's ongoing programs over the next 5 years or so. I mean, for Black Californians who are really looking to the task force's work and are hoping that they get, as you said, the debt that's paid to them, I mean, is it realistic, though, for them to expect this kind of relief anytime soon?
We have to make the effort. I mean, if not, this is all for naught. I mean, why have the task force do the work of, that we did over 2 years if we didn't have real intentions on trying to heal and make some repairs? So it won't happen overnight. I'm not naive to believe that this is going to have to be happen overnight, that it will be easy. It will take a long-term commitment, but I often state, I use high-speed rail as a prime example. It started, it's supposed to only be about $30 billion. It's now into the hundreds of billions of dollars, and we continue to find money to fund projects such as that. So again, if reparations is important, we should be able to find ways to fund it.
Is the CLBC divided over this kind of proposal? Because I'm sorry I walked in late, and it seems like the questioning was may have been going in that direction. But I mean, because you're here alone, and then CLBC rolled out their package yesterday that really
wouldn't say we're divided, it's just the fact that as legislators, every year we introduce packages. And last year I introduced 20 bills, only 2 were CLBC priorities. So every bill can't be a priority, and reparations is no different than that. But it's gonna be other colleagues in the Black Caucus who probably will have their own set of bills as well, as it deals with reparations, but they all will not be priorities for this year. So I wouldn't say we're divided, it's just like any other piece of legislation. We have the right as individuals to introduce our own packages regardless of what the issue is. And people are trying to make it seem like simply because it's reparations, it's some division here. This is how we operate on a regular basis. This is how we've done for 13 years that I've been in the legislature. Not all my bills have ever been, always been, I should say, a priority of the Black Caucus.
And just logistically speaking, I see like XX next to some of these bill numbers. Did you file these today?
I'm sorry.
Did you file these today?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Senator Bradford, also, you were really critical about how the communication was handled, during those task force activities and meeting, and not so much, certain black media outlets. Just want to get your thoughts on how the communication can be handled a little bit more, going forward. I think the California Department of Justice may have had some constraints, some restrictions as far as handling communication. Just want to get your thoughts on and you did mention the word education, and that's something that, the media can put that type of information out there. Just want to get your thoughts on how the communication should be handled going forward.
Well, the Black Caucus is working right now with a public relations forum to help get that message out. So that's part of our work in elevating and promoting those 14 pieces of legislation that are a priority, but we will be working in conjunction to make sure that media is aware of what we're doing. So yes, this is what the whole campaign should be about, educating and making sure that not only black Californians are aware, but all Californians are aware of what we're trying to do. So there will be a media process or a public relations process moving forward.
And is it possible you could tell us, what that would entail, as far as communication outlets? I know there was a series of community listening sessions that was going on. They want to get, the clergy, the religion institutions more involved, and radio station, et cetera. Would that be part of the process?
I'm pretty sure it would be. I mean, without a doubt, whatever medium that's available, we want to utilize that. If it's, like I say, our clergy, I'm pretty sure through the rollout, again, we just implemented, we voted on that just a week or so ago, so we're still putting that together.
Senator, can you talk about the politics of doing this during an election year? Mail ballots are going to go out next week. Do you have any concerns that your colleagues may be reticent to support legislation like this at a time when they're about to run for re-election?
Even if it wasn't election year, there's going to be colleagues who are going to be concerned and cautious about doing what's right. We've seen it, we saw it after the George Floyd situation when we were trying to do police reform in this state, and a lot of folks was hesitant about doing it. So, it's going to be an opportunity for, our colleagues to really stand with us, our true allies to stand together, but those folks who truly believe in this, whether it's an election year or not, I think they're willing to do the right thing.
Have you had conversations with the governor about, about the budget and your ask?
No, I mean, the Black Caucus has been in discussions with the governor. This is my proposal right now, so I'm not going to try to tie that with the ongoing discussions that the Black Caucus has had, but we're moving collectively, but I will be sitting down with governor staff, letting them know what I was proposing. I shared this last year, that I thought a percentage of the budget should be dedicated. During the task force hearings, I often said 0.5% of the budget should be dedicated to reparations. So this is not new to me. I was saying it for the last 2 years, that 0.5%, we do a $300 billion budget, that would be $1.5 billion annually going forward to fund reparations.
There are other communities, any of those other people of color who also face similar situations and are seeking different reparations. Are you working with any other groups to try to model the best way of doing this?
I'm not, me personally not, but collectively we're in discussions. Again, that's what that 2-year task force work was all about, understanding what has worked, what hasn't worked, and what's in place. And again, we've seen it for our Native American brothers and sisters, so we want to model some of the things that have already been done. We're not trying to recreate the wheel here.
Senator, we have a question from Bloomberg. Raise them on.
Hi, Senator Karen Breslau from Bloomberg in San Francisco. I wanted to ask you, you said that if I heard you correctly, 12% of the population would be eligible. And I just wanted to clarify, what is the population of eligible Californians?
No, I misspoke. It's 6% of the population. I'm sorry. 6%. I'm sorry. If I said 12%, 6% of the population in California is African American. I misspoke.
Okay. And of that 6%, do you have any sense who would be considered eligible under the terms laid out in the task force report?
Not at this point. That's what the agency will help determine those communities, those individuals who are eligible under the communities of eligibility, those descendants of chattel slavery, those individuals who can prove that they're descendants of chattel slavery.
And I also wanted, if you could please clarify the notion that the first legislative action in this year, I understood was going to be a formal apology by the state of California. And it sounds like with your package, there are 2 tracks.
There are 2 what?
Are there 2 tracks for legislation, or do you support the notion that the first official act be an apology?
Part of the 14 bills, one does deal with apologies, so that's in the legislative priority package of the Black Caucus. There is a bill speaking to apology.
And in terms of the starting point, I guess, just building on the previous question, given the budget situation, the deficit, and you're calling on setting aside $1.5 billion annually, how do you persuade, starting with your colleagues, to make this decision? Also, given not only the current budget situation, but also the relative unpopularity of the concept in California currently, the concept of reparations.
Again, it's about having that dialogue, having that education. Again, it doesn't have to be this budget year, but we want to put a marker down, whether it's beginning next year or 2 years down the road. We want to put a marker that says at some point reparations has to be part of the budget, regardless of what that number is, if we're going to implement any of these programs, whether it's ongoing education, it's healthcare, it's helping folks become homeowners. Something has to be in the budget to stand this agency up. And so we have to be honest about that discussion. That has to happen.
Thank you.
Senator, you said that the 6% of the people had to prove that they were descendants of slavery. But almost every African American that's in this nation is a descendant of slavery. And they can't prove because it was over 180 years old since it happened. So how are they going to be able to prove that when there's no documentation?
That's what the agency will help do that, help with the lineage. We know documentation, records of slaves were horrible. We understood. That's what this book told us. That's what this study told us. But without an agency to help facilitate that, and that's what we're trying to do with the Freedmen's Bureau, just like in 1865, that helped those former, enslaved individuals get their 40 acres in the mural. We're hoping with an agency will help those folks, do their backgrounds and help them with their lineage and determine that they're descendants. We know it's not going to be easy. Nothing about this is going to be easy.
Do you have a predecessor after you leave? Is somebody going
I'm sorry?
to pick up from where you left off after you leave office?
Well, there's going to be members of the Black Caucus who are going to continue this work. We know this will not be a one-year mission. This is going to be ongoing. So it doesn't start nor stop with Steve Bradford. It will be ongoing. But this just happens to be my package that I'm introducing this year. And again, it's going to be, dozens of bills that are going to be introduced going forward to start addressing all that's in this document.
Do you have an estimate for how much it would cost for the Freedmen's Affairs Agency? That was the first bill.
I'm sorry?
Do you have an ask for a dollar amount to set that agency up?
No, we're still working with, having discussions. with, ledge council and things of that nature to see what's all involved. So, no, we don't have a hard figure as of yet, no. Again, this is all new. This is new territory that we've never, traveled on, so it's a work in progress.
Senator, we have a question from Regina Wilson.
Thank you, Senator. Do you think that is it an option for the Bureau to be housed in any other state agency, or will it have to be housed like in its own agency? So if there's, if you're not able to get a standalone agency, would it be able to be housed somewhere, the OPRs or, how government sometimes restructures? Is there a way, or are you open to anything that would allow for a restructuring of other departments that may shuffle around staff to be able to stand up the agency?
We would hope so. Again, we're not trying to recreate the wheel. We're not trying to do something that doesn't exist. So if it's a way to integrate that and to be an intergovernmental agency, we're all for that. I mean, that's part of the research that we're doing right now. That's why we've taken our time in rolling out this piece of legislation, because we don't want to, move, haphazardly. We want to have those discussions of how we truly build this thing up and have a foundation that's, workable and that, will deliver on the promises of, again, this report.
Could I ask a follow-up question on that for CAFA, California American Freedmen Affairs Agency? That would be headquartered here in Sacramento with possibly satellites across the state. Would how that be set up, to help facilitate?
Again, we're still a work in progress. We don't know if it's going to be multiple, offices that you can interface with, but I'm pretty sure if, just like anything else, you don't have to come to Sacramento to, to deal with the Treasury Department. So you will be able to have, ways to access that information. So you wouldn't necessarily have to, if it's even housed here in Sacramento, you wouldn't have to come to Sacramento to access that.
And it would be staffed with genealogists too to help. Okay.
We would hope that's the plan. Again, it's a work in progress, but we would hope that would be involved in it.
Senator, at the 3,000 foot level, since the report came out, how receptive do you feel like your non-Black colleagues in the legislature are receiving this issue overall, generally?
That's a hard question to answer, but I would rather ask how many have read this, or even the executive summary. I think that's the start. And that's what I constantly challenge my colleagues with. Have you read it? Have you at least done the executive summary to understand what's here?
You get the sense they haven't?
I'm pretty sure many of them haven't. Yeah.
Have not?
Have not, yeah.
From both sides of the aisle?
I'm pretty sure. It's 1,100 pages. It's not an easy read, but we're encouraging. This is the start. Really. We did 2 years worth of work, and this is probably the most comprehensive study on slavery that has been done. And so I'm hoping my colleagues will read it, because it clearly spells out the harms. And many people say California didn't have a role. California did have a role in slavery. We were a free state in name only, but again, the first governor of the state of California owned slaves. If you were brought here as a slave, you were treated as a slave. If you were a pregnant slave with a child and you gave birth here, your child was born here, he or she was the slave. We had a fugitive slave law. So you ran away from Alabama and came to California, they took you back. So they need to know that. But a lot of folks don't believe California played a role. We played a very integral role in slavery here in this country.
And on this February 1st, the first day of Black History Month, what is as you talk about just now that history about the first governor of California, looking ahead to the future, what is your hope that this will do for people in the future?
Well, that's why we purposely planned this from day one to introduce my package, specifically on reparations on Black History Month. Again, as we often said, there's stories that made America, and then there's stories that America made up. It's time to understand and know the stories that made America, and it's in this document right here. So I'm hoping folks will learn and grow from it.
This is my last question, Senator. I just wanted to get your personal experience of serving on that 9-member panel of the California Task Force Reparations, and how you feel, through those 2 years being with those group of, bodies, attorneys, educators, across the board.
I think it was the most amazing experience of my life. I mean, being African American all my life, I learned so much. You think you know about slavery, you think you know about history in America, but I didn't. And again, it's so much in this, and being able to serve with those 8 individuals from vast walks of life and have their experience, like you say, college professors, lawyers, religious leaders, elected officials. It was a true honor, and I think we benefited tremendously from that opportunity. I benefited tremendously from it, and this is probably the most impactful work I've done in my political career.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.